in 2 Corinthians 2, 7-8. He says, forgive and comfort him. Reaffirm your love for him so that he'll not be overcome with excessive sorrow. And then he warns us in verse 10, forgive in order that Satan might not outwit you. So he's saying if you don't forgive, that's a scheme of the enemy. He's trying to trick you into staying in that bondage. So when we promise not to quell, we say, I'm going to walk back towards a relationship. It's going to take time to restore it, but you've repented and I forgive, and we're going to walk back so that our arms can be open to each other again. Sometimes, when people repent, I want to talk about that for a little bit. The world, what I want to talk about is worldly sorrow. Worldly sorrow or worldly repentance says, I just want to sweep it under the rug. I said I was sorry, just get over it. You heard that? Mm-hmm. That's not biblical repentance. Worldly sorrow sometimes says, well, I wouldn't have done it, but you started it. There's a but. It's not my fault. Look what you did. So you get blamed for it. That's not biblical repentance. They don't want to own their sin. Worldly sorrow gets angry at the idea that it takes time to rebuild trust. One husband yelled, God forgave me immediately. Why won't you? Well, God knows the heart. But we are told, because we can't know people's heart, to look for the fruit of repentance or the deeds of repentance. And fruit and deeds take time. So they have to give you time. Does that make sense? And finally, worldly sorrow doesn't want to deal with the consequences. They just want it all to be over. Godly sorrow owns their sin and calls it sin. Please forgive me for my words of gossip. I know I tore you down. I know I caused you pain. You're owning it. Godly sorrow does not finger point. Psalm 51, which is David's psalm of repentance when he had sinned with Bathsheba. He didn't blame his wife for not meeting his needs. He didn't blame Bathsheba for being beautiful. He didn't blame Uriah. He took responsibility for himself. So it would sound like this. I know it was my choice to scream at you. I realized that I showed the anger that was in my heart. It's not your fault. Godly sorrows accepts responsibility. David knew that his relationship with God had been broken, and he said, what did he say? Do not cast me from your presence. Oh, God, let me come back to you. He knew it was his fault. And that may look like, you know what, if I'm having an affair, yes, I understand you want to check my texts. I understand you want to read my emails. I understand that you want to know where I am. Those are my consequences. And finally, godly sorrow recognizes that it takes time to build. Like we talked about the fruit of repentance and the deed. So let me give you an example. When I first moved here, I hurt my friend Chris pretty badly. I was pretty good at hurting people. I still had that edgy anger. And so we sat down and I said, can we talk about what happened? And so the first thing I said to her is, tell me how I hurt you. And so she very carefully said, well, you did this and you did that. And she kind of waited for me to go, but you, because that's what she was used to. And I said, okay, I'm listening. And so she told me more. And I said, will you please forgive me? And I told her I repeated back what I did. And I said, and I would think I also hurt you this way, and this way, and this way. Will you forgive me? And she said, well, I forgive you, but I don't trust you. And I said, well, of course you don't. I said, those are my consequences. I broke it. It's going to take time to fix it. I have to give you that time. And what I said is, all I'm asking is for the opportunity for me to show you that I've changed. And it was very different for her. She'd never had that humbleness of knowing that, but I knew how to fix things. I mean, I'd been really good at breaking them, so I had a lot of practice at fixing them. So God was teaching me, and I had a chance to teach her on how to forgiveness too. So I want to end on Another category. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. So this is like the third category. The first category are the abusive people, 2 Timothy 3, unrepentant, lovers of themselves, proud, abusive, ungrateful, unholy, without love, slanderous, brutal. It goes on to say, have nothing to do with them, guard your heart. You forgive vertically, but you don't ever have that relationship again. And they're not like the repentant prodigal who said, Father, I've sinned against you, heaven, and I've sinned against you. What they are is they just are unaware that they've sinned. They're immature. They believe their actions and their words and their attitudes are justified. They're spiritual children. They just don't know. And they don't know what they're doing. And so you forgive them and you hand them over to God. One of the sweetest stories, I think, in the Bible is Luke 7, and it's a story about Simon the Pharisee. He invited Christ to dinner. And at that time, a disgustful, sexually immoral woman came and knelt at Jesus' feet, weeping, wet his feet with her tears, and then wiped them with her hair, kissing them and pouring perfume on them. And Simon was not happy. And Jesus told him a story. He said, imagine two men owed debt to a moneylender, one a huge sum, one a small sum. The moneylender forgave both debts. And Jesus asked Simon, who would love the moneylender more? And Simon said, the one who had the bigger debt to answer. And Jesus said, therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he has been forgiven little, loved little. So, even if you've been sinned against big, if you forgive, you will have an immense love and gratitude to God for what he's done in your life. And I'm convinced that forgiveness is the greatest proof of our Christianity. The world does not forgive. We are his ambassadors. We're his little peaches. And we're going to show the world something different by how we forgive. So, the bottom line, the summary, forgiveness is an active sacrifice. It's a bridge to relationship. It's a command and a command. You don't tell, you don't yell, you don't dwell, you don't quell. If you don't forgive, you're going to be imprisoned yourself. And if you can't forgive, you need to ask yourself, have I been forgiven? Have I received what God has given? Well, thank you, ladies, for listening. I know that Amy probably has some questions or comments or